Hi, my name's Ali and this is my first booktube video. It's actually the first video I think I've ever made of myself. I've done a lot of videos of dogs playing and stuff. Doesn't really count. I actually only discovered booktube about 48 hours ago or something, and I've basically spent the last 48 hours, or a lot of that time, kind of reading or watching people's videos and kind of some of the hauls and reviews and all that kind of thing, and tags and things. And I decided that I just have to do it because I love reviewing things. I've had a Goodreads account for years, and I have comprehensive lists of everything I've ever read in the back of journals and diaries and things. And reading's really been a huge part of my life for my whole life, for as long as I can remember. And I love talking about books, and I don't really do it that often, which is a shame. So this is a really great, it's great. I'm glad I came across booktube. Anyway, I thought for my introduction, instead of just saying what kind of things I read, I'd actually do a tag, which I saw a few people have done. I think it's the big book tag or something like that. Biggest books you own or have read or something like that. Mainly because I was looking on my bookshelf today, and some of my favourite books have been actually pretty big ones, and I looked at the biggest kind of few books that I own, and they're actually they're ones that I've really loved, because I guess if you're going to spend potentially months of time, you know, investing yourself in a novel that's like 1,000+ pages long, chances are you're going to like it, or at least have something to say about it. So I thought that tag might be a good place to start. So I've got 6 books here, which are the biggest, I think, or, you know, they're all pretty big books, which kind of shows some of the things that I like to read. I actually just looked, and there's a couple of science fiction ones, which, so they're kind of overrepresented, I think. But that's, you know, sometimes science fiction books tend to be quite massive. And there are a lot of massive ones, and a series of massive ones. Anyway, so this is there's some books that I like, and insight into kind of the things that I like to read. The first one is A Suitable Boy by Vikram Seth, which I read, I think, 7 or 8 years ago or something like that, and it is massive. I think this is actually the biggest book, well, it's definitely the biggest book I own. It's about 1,400 pages, I think, 1,474. And this took me months to read, and at times it was quite trying. I remember at the time getting through it and just thinking, I just have to kind of get past this part. There are some parts that do drag, that seemed to drag when I was reading it, and I just almost packed it in a few times, but I did get there, and it's, I'm really glad that I got to the end. I absolutely, well, overwhelmingly I enjoyed it, but yeah, it's not, it's a hard, well, it's a long book to read. It's a challenge, but it's really rewarding. And I remember when I was reading it, I was on the tram, and people would come up to me and say, "Oh, I read that book too. Don't you just love the mother? And, you know, who's your favourite character?" So it almost became a little kind of cult, or like a little community of people who actually have read it, because that seems to have a big impact on people who've read it. So this is, yeah, it's a great book, and I think one day I may actually reread it, because it was a while ago, and I think I'd get more out of it this time around. I'm a little bit older, and it would be for pleasure again. The next one is The Reality Dysfunction by Peter F. Hamilton, which is obviously a science fiction book. It has a spaceship on the cover. This is, I think it's probably the first and the biggest, more hard sciencey kind of books that I've ever read, or hard science fiction. Although, I mean, maybe there's purists who will go, that's not hard science fiction, that is nothing. But it's quite heavy, and it is, like a lot of books like this, it kind of jumps around a bit, so there's different things happening and different plot lines and things in different worlds and times, so it is not the kind of thing that you can just dip in and out of. You really have to, I think, immerse yourself in it, at least at the start, to really kind of understand what's going on and where and who everybody is. And it's sometimes, I find with books like this, sometimes it does take you a little while and you just have to stick with it and kind of sit with that uneasy feeling of not really knowing what's happening for a while, until it all clicks and you can't put it down. So this is book one of, I think 3, and I don't think I ever actually finished the series. I think I definitely finished the second. I don't know if I finished the third, but I would like to do that one day. I actually started rereading this like a year or so ago, because I read it some years ago, and it was great, but I had too much on and I didn't have enough kind of time and brain power to dedicate to it at that time, so I stopped. But that's another one. So I do like sci-fi, but I kind of go in waves with it, where I kind of just want to read exclusively sci-fi, or I just think enough and don't want to touch it for a few years. The next one is, a lot of people will have read this, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Narelle? I don't think I've ever said that out loud. Maybe I've been saying it wrong in my head the whole time. This is another one which is quite long, 1,000 pages, and I kind of, I don't really have that many fond memories of this book. I read it and I kind of enjoyed it, but I think I just forced myself to finish it because I just wanted, I don't know, I figured I'd come this far, I may as well finish it. But I don't know that I'd recommend it again. I don't know, I think I have to go and revisit the review that I wrote of it to kind of remember really what my thoughts were. But there you go, something I read, and it's long, and there you go. The next one, mix it up a bit. Oh god, I love this book. A Prayer for Owen Meany by John Irving. Again, I read this some years ago, and as I got it out before a receipt fell out from 2008, I think it was, January 2008. So it's been a while, but this book really had a profound influence on me, I think. Oh god, I love it. It's terrible, I don't even really remember that much of the plot, so it's probably a bit weird saying how much I love it when I don't even remember it that much. But I don't know, I have a terrible memory. I'm really bad at remembering characters and even plots half the time. Sometimes I'm just kind of left with this residual like feeling about what I had about the book when I read it, which is kind of like, it's like an emotional response I have rather than an intellectual one. But this book and was the first, I think, John Irving book that I read, and after that I went on a bit of a binge and read a number of other ones. But this one I think will always just have a soft, strong spot in my heart. It's a really beautiful book. I remember when I finished it, I was still living with my parents, and I remember sitting on my bed and just dropping it and crying, weeping, because there's just so... I was devastated that it was finished, really. It's a really sad, moving, emotional book. It's heavy, but I absolutely loved it, and I fully intend to read this again. It's a great book. Whenever people ask me what my favourite book is, I always think this, and I don't know that that's actually true, but it just kind of has had that effect on me. The fourth one is this one, The Wise Man's Fear, which I love as well. This is actually book 2 of the Kingkiller Chronicles, it's called. The first one is The Name of the Wind, or In the Name of the Wind. They're by Patrick Rothfuss, and this the third one hasn't actually come out yet. I don't even know if at what point he is in writing it, but oh my god, these books are so good. I was so excited when the second one came out, and my husband actually bought it, well, he was my boyfriend I think at the time, bought this for me quite soon after it had come out, which is why it's the massive, like the big, it's a soft cover, but it's big and it's heavy and it's, you know, the huge version. Oh god, it's so good. It's great because it's a fantasy book, but I think this guy, Patrick Rothfuss, he's a writer first and foremost, and a fantasy writer second, and I think that's not something that you can say for all fantasy books and fantasy writers. A lot of fantasy books I find are, you know, it might have a nice story, or it might be the completely formulaic fantasy story, which this kind of is in some ways. It's, you know, the orphan child or the chosen child who's, you know, from a poor background and has a power and saves the world, blah, blah, blah. But it is so beautifully written. It's brilliant and it is gripping, and I can't wait until the third one comes out so I can read the first and second and then go on to the third again. And I would highly recommend this to people who maybe haven't read much fantasy and are a bit scared, or just think, swords, horses, orcs, trolls, ugh. It's really good. Do it. We'll start with The Name of the Wind, the first one. It's so good. You will not regret it. It's great. And if you do, well, at least you tried, and you tried with a good book. And the last one that I'll talk about is one that I read recently, in the last couple of months. The Luminaries by Eleanor Catton, which won, God, I think it was the Pulitzer or like something really recently, I don't know, something. And oh God, I loved it. I absolutely love this book. It's set in New Zealand. Actually, the author is, I think she's Kiwi, or she lives there now. She's like a year older than me. I think she's 28. Which is a pretty good effort. It's such a brilliant book. So it's set in New Zealand in the Gold Rush, and it's kind of a bit of a murder mystery, intrigue, historical fiction mishmash, and it's really good. It's great. I've read some mixed reviews on this. Some people think that it's kind of 500 pages too long, or that it is, I don't know, that the whole moon kind of involvement is a bit ridiculous. I have to confess, it may be that I am just stupid and miss the point here, because all of the things about the moon are completely went over my head. And sorry, I have 3 dogs and we babysitting a dog, so there's 4 dogs here today. But as you can see on the front, these are kind of meant to be the phases of the moon, and that's Maggie. Sorry. So there is like this kind of thing weaving through it, that it's sectioned by the moon, phases of the moon, and the chapter lengths towards, I think it's from the second half of the book, kind of get smaller as to replicate phases of the moon. Now, like this kind of completely went over my head at the time, and I basically just ignored all the little bits about the moon and just kept going with the normal story, which may mean that I've completely read it wrong or defeated the purpose of reading it, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was devastated when it ended, and I actually kind of went on this thing where I just had to track down all sorts of other books set in the same time period, because I kind of wasn't ready to leave it to leave it yet. But it is great. I highly recommend it. I think it's a brilliant book, and she's only written one other one called The Rehearsal, which I fully intend to read very soon, because I think she's brilliant. I think she's a great author, and I'm really glad that this book's got that kind of recommendation, because I think it's well deserved. So that's it. That's 6 big books that I read that I have, for the most part, really enjoyed. So yeah, there's a bit of a mix there, but I guess I mainly read like literary fiction, whatever that means. It's not chick lit. And I also, but I'm quite broad. I mean, I read a bit of sci-fi and fantasy sometimes, and some historical fiction and non-fiction as well. Yeah, so yes, I think that will do for my first video. I don't really know what else to say. So thank you for watching. Let me know if you have any comments or anything, and I look forward to being part of this community. Thank you. Bye.